Talking about Anna Valens, because she made another Vice article where I am mentioned, which I found out through Mujin's tweet yesterday. So let's take a look at it. It's like an opinion piece. It's not like anything super shocking, but I do have a few things to say about it. I don't agree with what's being said in it. I think there is a lack of understanding. There's a lack of an understanding of, I want to say how the world works, but I think I gotta be more specific. There's a lack of understanding on how, YouTube works, how audience work, and how journalism work even, which is crazy because they are a journalist. Anyway, Newstubers deserve greater support. Maybe that's a pipe dream, maybe not. Ever since I started covering the VTubing industry in April, I've been thinking a lot about my counterparts on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. News VTubers, or Newstubers, are VTubers who discuss the VTubing industry's current events, at times given their own personal opinion on matters. First of all, I must ask myself, do other niches have commentary channels that their audience call news channels? Or is that strictly a VTubing thing? Unless it's like that guy that is chasing tornadoes and storms and stuff. Or Channel 5, that's an actual news site. First of all, right off the bat in this article, I think the word Newstuber or news VTuber is just like a label that for some reason people in the VTubing community have adopted to describe commentary VTubing channels. But there was already a word for it. It's called commentary. I feel like calling it news already makes it so it needs to be more official, when it's not really, because it's YouTube. If I'm the legacy media version of a VTuber reporter, then they're the new media iteration. Much as I love what I do, I personally believe they are the future of news reporting about VTubing. I can't compete with an anime girl doing my job over YouTube or Twitch. True, False does sound like a newscaster or an anchorman. Newstubing has gotten particularly popular within VTubing. The appeal is obvious. Why let an outsider comment on something when one of your own has the inside scoop? I mean, because every time an outsider has commented on something about the VTuber community, they just don't get it. They sound like a 100-year-old boomer normie that's like, oh, cartoon characters are moving their mouse. Many Newstubers have popped up over the past 5 years, some of which with massive following. Mythic Talents False ID, Rima Evenstar, hey, that's me, and Mujin come to mind immediately. Although, they're just the tip of the iceberg. See Lydia Nikozawa! Hey, Lydia mentioned Officer Irundle! I also follow her. And VTuber Academia's Ilara, just to name a few more. All the homies are there. And all this isn't even mentioning the quote-unquote drama tuber, Newstubers who throw out low-quality commentary videos discussing drama for clicks. I'll refrain from naming specifics here to avoid feeding the beast. As I mentioned in my story on Zentrea's massive Twitch popularity, I believe the Newstuber is a net positive for the VTubing industry. The best Newstubers have an encyclopedic knowledge of the VTubing landscape. That's kind of how I would describe Nuzagi, although I wouldn't describe him a Newstuber. But I feel like if there is one person that has an encyclopedic knowledge of the VTubing landscape, it's probably him. His mind dates far back, many years back, providing additional context and background information to an audience that sees them as one of their own. I honestly think the larger journalist landscape is sleeping on a Newstuber phenomenon, failing to give these journalists the credit they're due. Unfortunately, I also believe Newstubers are not given adequate journalistic support, forced instead to grapple with content creation's highs and lows if they were regular VTubers. But they're not regular VTubers, they're journalists. I concur. I don't want to be a journalist. I am a content creator. But you know what? I wouldn't be against reading a really fucking good article about VTubers. It'd have to be in a publication that has good writers, that go in depth about things. I could see an article in Vogue about VTubers. Vogue Japan, maybe. Or Dazed or something. Some kind of magazine. Oh, concur means you agree? What? Thought it was the opposite. This is why I could not be a journalist. I cannot do words. Times Magazine? Is Time Magazine's ready for VTubers? What other publication could talk about VTubers besides Dexerto? See, Dexerto kind of does that slop writing now, but they do cover online phenomenons, which is already something. Because people in the outside world are curious about VTubers. When I talk to somebody IRL about what a VTuber are, they're fascinated that this even exists, and they're like, what the fuck, this is so niche. So, okay, let's continue with the article. Oh, Washington Post did a piece on Iron Mouse. Cool. That's cool. Okay, so Anna continues to say, I've been a journalist in digital media since the early 2010s. Oh, it's been a while. When I first started writing for my college newspaper. Based on my experience in digital journalism, I'd like to outline the biggest problem I see in Newstubing and how I think Newstubers can gain support against it. Support that, if obtained, would really let Newstubing shine as a future model for journalism in an era increasingly rejecting written media. The following is my point of view, and this story should be understood as a personal opinion piece. For a news reporter, independence is a blessing and a curse. On one hand, all of your content is self-directed. There's no man upstairs deciding what articles should or shouldn't run. There's no limit to what you can cover. You control your destiny and you decide what to discuss. In contemporary digital media, this is a major issue. Money is drying up. Businesses are closing, and the few remaining companies are trying to keep their publications afloat by actively directing editorial's content focus. Hence the emergence of SEO slop. But if you're an independent journalist, you're free spirit. Yes, but I feel like, okay, it's kind of not centered about VTuber anymore, but I really feel like to fight back against to have legacy media gain their prestige again, they need to focus back on doing what they were good at, which is writing good and interesting articles, lengthy stuff, because I feel like these clickbait SEO slop isn't working. So why not try something else? You know how like fast fashion was a thing, and then people started doing like the slow fashion, which is like the opposite. And there's a niche for that, and people are into that. I feel like we need the counterwave to SEO slop to start now. Soon, please. I buy the journal every now and then just to read something on paper in my hands. It feels kind of good. Unfortunately, while Newstubers theoretically have the independence to cover whatever they wish, they still have a boss, their viewers. At this point, VTubing revenue is primarily fueled by an adoring, if not parasocial fan base. Income from Patreon subscriptions, YouTube memberships, Twitch subs, and bits, merchandise sales, and partnership code redeems. Each and every one of these revenue sources is fueled by a happy viewership. If your viewers like you, they'll spend. If they don't like something you've done, they may leave. This is fine if you're a VTuber who plays video games or create ASMR content. But if the ultimate goal of a Newstuber is to report on the news, and a Newstuber's income is determined based on viewer enjoyment, then Newstubers may avoid covering certain stories to keep their viewership happy. Doubly so if their fans de facto lean towards a certain political beliefs or values, left or right, close to center, or otherwise. So, few things. She's already outlined how legacy media and regular journalists are at the mercy of money, with the money drying up. The business are closing. They're trying to keep the publications afloat, so they're creating crap SEO slop instead. And now, for some reason, she's saying that, it's kind of like the same game they play, that we play, but she doesn't see it that way. Because for some reason, VTubers who cover news or situation should not have their income come from their audience. But journalists have their income come from their audience too. And then she says, it's fine if you're a VTuber who plays video games or create ASMR content. No, it's not fine. It's actually worse for them. It's worse for them if their audience disagree with what they're doing. I have people disagree with me all the fucking time. People from my own fan base. All the time. And you know what? You know what they do? They still watch my videos. Because they know the information I have, nobody else will have it. Or they hate watch it. And you know what? It's not even true that you need to keep your viewership happy for them to give you money, because there's lolcows like Phil that prove this otherwise. You're an entertainer, but Newstubing isn't necessarily entertaining. Yes, it is. Yes, it's meant to be entertaining. If you're making a video on YouTube and what you're saying isn't interesting or entertaining, then you failed. Anyway, but if the ultimate goal of a Newstuber is to report on the news and a Newstuber income is determined based on viewer enjoyment, then Newstuber may avoid covering certain stories to keep their viewership happy. I don't think anybody is forced to cover every single story. If a story doesn't make my heart dance, I don't feel like covering it. If somebody tries to force me or pushes me to cover something, I'm sort of a contrarian, and then I want to do it even less, okay? So, actually, if you want me to cover something, never ask me to do it, because I hate when people tell me what to do. I think people should talk about stuff that they are comfortable talking about, that they have fun talking about, that they find interesting, because if you talk about something when you're not interested in it, it's gonna show. It's literally gonna show. People feel that. Rima, are you gonna cover the mod basement allegations? Listen, I left them a bucket with, I believe, is clean water, so I think they're fine. Does Newstuber entertain or do they report the news? Lydia Nikozawa, reporting on VTuber news. In my personal opinion, Nikozawa is a good role model for high-quality VTubing reporting screenshots. I agree with this. I think she is a good role model. And I think Lydia's doing great. She always has good attitude. She's so pleasant to talk to. And she's professional. And she always, you know, tries to make a separation between speculations and what she knows is facts. So I like Lydia, yes. For most news-oriented streamers and YouTubers outside of VTubing, viewership enjoyment isn't necessarily a problem. Wait, I need to register this sentence. For most news-oriented streamers and YouTubers outside of VTubing, viewership enjoyment isn't... What? Wait, what? Wait, am I on... Is she saying that... Chat, is she saying that for YouTubers outside of VTubing, viewership enjoyment is like not a problem, it's not a factor? How? How could it not be? This is just a delusional take. Most viewers will generally disagree with their favorite creators now and again. But because VTubing is a growing niche, VTuber fans have very strong opinions about the industry's agencies, performer, and cultural issues. One bad take can be a black mark on an entire Newstuber career. I have a few black marks on my Newstuber career. I've had a few back takes. I've had a few bad takes in my time, in my short time so far. One of my most controversial one is that I found that people that woke up late were lazy. I mean, you guys really didn't like that one. That one was... I heard about it for like days, okay? I should do more of these bad takes. I should do more of these bad takes. I should do like these annoying bad takes, have people get mad, then make another video about it, double down, and then have people get mad again, like Asmongold kind of does. There's been a few other bad takes. I think most reasonable people stick around. That's just rage baiting? True, that is just rage baiting. Well, I think there's like a degree of disagreement. You know, I think I know Pippa's had a few takes on Twitter that got people really upset, but they were always like kind of dumb. For some reason, no, okay. So, two things. When her own audience was mad at her, they were always for kind of dumb reason. But for them, obviously, they thought it was a bigger deal. Like her saying that the Joker 2 movie wasn't that bad and shit like that. It's always been... And I mean, people still watch her. They're not gonna stop watching her because she said the Joker 2 movie wasn't that bad. There was another kind of take like that. Oh yeah, something... I know. Remember when that one content creator, he made this manga that like sold out? It sold out almost instantly and he made a lot of money with it, and then people started complaining that the manga wasn't made in Japan, so it shouldn't be called manga, and then she made a tweet about that, and then her audience was upset. Yeah, manga, look, L takes are expected. L takes are expected. I mean, people have L takes all the time, especially when they yap for a living, and then those L takes are like amplified by the internet, you know? I do agree that VTuber fans have very strong opinions about the industry's agencies, performer, and cultural issues. Yes, they do. But I think that these opinions sometimes don't transfer from platform to platforms. For example, I do think that like Twitter and Reddit are their own, you know, like little bubbles. And then YouTube has its own bubble where people are mostly just there to enjoy the content without taking part in the discussions most of the time. One bad take can be a black mark on an entire Newstuber career. I mean, we haven't seen this happen yet, so I'm not sure where this comes from. I feel for these Newstubers. The job of a journalist isn't to make people happy, it's to report on relevant and important events based on factual information. As the old adage goes, dog bites man isn't newsworthy, but man bites dog is. But if you're a viewership-funded journalist and your audience would hate hearing that a man bit a dog, if simply acknowledging the reality of a man biting dog behavior would cost you cash, that's a problem. I mean, sure, no one is owed a YouTube membership or Twitch subscription, but when your viewers write your paycheck, your capacity to report on news is curtailed by their biases. This can sway a Newstuber approach on what to cover, or if they cover a story at all. She does write well, though. I just disagree with the content. I'll give credit where credit is due. I do think that there are some audiences or some creators that get audience captured, especially smaller creators who feel like they have more to lose if they push back against their own audience. However, I don't think that's the case with me, because I've consistently tried to, and I believe that's a good advice for any content creator, that's not just goes for, you know, Newstubers, that you should try to always kind of shape or just segment off the part of your fan base that you don't want them to stick around. There's just being in content creation is like a constant, you know, push and pull. There's a constant rotation of viewers and audiences, and it's just a revolving door of people coming in and out. And the way to go about it is to reward the behaviors that you like, that you want people to stick around. So when somebody does something cool for you, something positive, then you should interact with that. And when somebody does something that you don't like, I mean, you need to speak up about it and sort of regulate it to a certain degree, to the degree where you don't go crazy with it, with what you can control around you, but, or you simply, you know, don't acknowledge it and work with like positive reinformation. But the thing is, if you don't segment off slowly but surely the people that you don't want in your fan base, over time, these people will add up and they will try to take control of your ship. Or once there is a controversy, these people will add on to the people that are upset at you. And then instead of having, for example, 200 people that are mad at you, then suddenly you have 400. So the way to go about this is simply to speak your mind from time to time. That's literally it. It's just speak your mind. Don't be scared. It is scary. It's scary to state your opinion on the internet because people rip it apart. They pick it apart. But, I mean, welcome to saying your opinion on the internet. It is what it is. Like, I even made I made this pin tweet on the Takahata situation where I was telling people in the comment section to calm down. And I knew people would be upset at that pin tweet. I knew it, but you know what? It's my fucking stream, man. It's my fucking channel, so I'll make the pin tweet if I want to. So I guess my advice for starting creators or for creators that are struggling with this is to just go for it. Even if they disagree, your audience, at the end of the day, they'll stick around, and the people that this really pissed off, just because you spoke your mind, well, you didn't want them anyway. You didn't want them around anyway. So it's okay if they leave. It's okay. Journalists are not meant to be popular. They're meant to be necessary. What they offer is a public service. At one point or another, every single journalist has written a story that upsets their own readers. These journalists file their drafts anyway because they believe the truth is more important than being liked. But in VTubing, being well liked is a financial necessity. Short-term popularity is tied to long-term income. Thus, if you know a story might upset your viewers, you might squelch it to maintain your income. To be clear, I'm not saying that every Newstuber struggles with bias, nor am I pointing to a specific Newstuber by saying so. I mean, okay, this is another thing that I think is false, is, well, journalists have biases, and every journalist publication has a bias. There's no such thing as an unbiased journalism. People really need to get that out of their head. And this is why there's a bunch of websites like Ground News, for example, and Up Arrow and shit like that, that tells you exactly where each publication is leaning, if you're really worried about the bias. So, for example, this one, for example, AI tools and doctor shortage leading to rise in DIY diagnosis. Lol, is that from people like Googling? That's how I got the diagnosis for my leg, by the way, was Google AI. And you can tell which articles has covered it, left, center, and right. And if a publication has covered it, it also tells you who owns it, what political affiliations they have, what is the degree of factuality, like if they're a trusted source or not. And they tell you exactly kind of like, you know, the bias distribution. So here, for example, 63% of the sources lean left. It's not necessarily something that the right wants to cover. Or if they did cover it, they covered it in another way. And it tells you like all of their different... when it's a more popular story, you'll have a summary of the right, the center, and the left. So I don't believe there is such thing as unbiased journalism. No, it's not a Ground News sponsor. My subscription actually ran out. There's a few websites that work like this. So she says, I'm simply pointing out that the cards are stacked against Newstubers and they may give in to their audience bias from time to time. The pressure to pander is always there. Yeah, but so it is for journalists. You also need to please your audience. You need to be entertaining just as much. And all of this isn't even discussing the excess journalism nature of Newstubing, where Newstubers may feel pressure to avoid controversies regarding major agencies, such as Nijisanji or Hololive, to prevent corporation from blacklisting them. Oh, we were already blacklisted. This can be a particularly challenging issue for smaller Newstubers who are still building their source Rolodex. Turning Newstubing into a news business. Official Irondel reporting on Twisty Amanozako, a Nijisanji VTuber, had her contract terminated like Nikozawa. I believe she is an excellent Newstuber and should be studied by aspiring creators. Screenshot. Officer Irondel. I'd like to propose an idea here. It might be good, it might be bad, it might be mediocre. I claim no ownership of it, so if Fishman wants to branch out from running a coffee company and into media, be my guest. Anyway, here it is. I think Newstubers should be able to join a salary-based agency, where each Newstuber is given support for their reporting through a proper editorial team. What do I mean? Newstubers would work with news editors. A managing editor would host daily meetings to talk about topics of conversations that Newstubers might have missed, and Newstubers could use this opportunity to pitch core topics for coverage, or spitball ideas for videos and streams. Newstubers would work on scripts and stream outlines, have them approved by editors, and receive direct guidance from their news editors as needed. If you need to help, it's always a DM away. I would not want to work for a news agency. No, I mean, that would be like working for a corpo. And the only reason why I'm in Mythic is because they can't touch my content, and they can't tell me what to do in regards to my content. If I had somebody looming over my shoulder telling me what to do or what to write, it wouldn't feel right. It wouldn't feel like freedom. The editorial team would also have a project management system akin to Trello or Asana to pitch stories, to discuss, collect information, and check in with editors about approach or deadlines. This would give Newstubers an immediate competitive advantage for breaking stories like Zentria leaves V Shoujo, as they would have drafts written ahead of time, along with background information over a specific agency or VTubers already on hand. So they would have drafts written ahead of time? Why? Would the official agencies contact them in advance to give them like a pitch? I don't really understand that part. I do like the idea of having drafts written in advance though. Fact checkers would also be hired to help Newstubers with confirming information, and video editors and clippers would help VTubers creating video work in a timely manner. I mean, these are all things I do solo. These are all things I already do solo. I guess if you're like operating on a big scale, then yeah, you might need more staff. I know Rotten Mango. She's not a Newstuber, but she makes these really long, like, crime documentaries. She's got quite a big team. She's got a team of researchers and stuff. I do have a Chinese researcher or somebody that could get me some articles in China, because you actually need a Chinese citizenship to access some of the media there. So I'm grateful for these people, and I have people contributing in other languages and stuff. And we try to fact check everything. I really don't see how somebody else that I outsource would do these things better than how I already do it, but it's just such a niche topic. Perhaps if the industry grows and there's more professionals that enter it, and as the knowledge gets deeper and grows, maybe there will be, you know, competent people to help like that. But right now I feel like it's not gonna happen. Under this model, the agency would offer each VTuber a salary that was weighted based on, but not innately determined by, VTuber revenue and average viewership numbers. I mean, it goes back to the same problem then. You'd still be at the mercy of audiences anyway. There is no job in the world where you're not gonna have a boss. That just doesn't exist. Every VTuber would have a basic starting salary floor to work off, with more established VTubers receiving more. Promotions would be yearly, with payment rising based on reporting quality and overall channel performance. The agency would offer benefits like paid time off and health insurance, as well as a marketing and illustration team for increasing Newstubers' visibility accountability. Newstubers channel revenue would help pay for editorial salaries. VTubers would be welcome to engage in variety content under the agency, and the legal team would help VTubers engage in contract negotiations with sponsors and partners. Most importantly, this model would still prioritize the editorial freedom of the VTuber. Newstubers are free to discuss whatever they wish, with editors judging based on the quality of the pitch as it pertains to facts, logics, and claims. Community managers and moderators would help with navigating comments on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, and editors would help with fielding tips. Newstuber agency would thus diminish bias from audience pressure by serving as a buffer. If a Newstuber wanted to report on a subject that may be controversial with their fan base, they're given the freedom to do so without worrying about the bag. They can be genuine with their audience, as the agency pays them, not fans. Yeah, but the agency won't pay you if you don't have any fans. Long term, this would allow Newstubers to gain viewers based on their trustworthiness, not because they verify the biases of their viewers. And these are some banger thumbnails though. Shout out to my thumbnail maker, Yandi. I always get compliments on these. I too wish we could live in a perfect world. The most popular YouTube videos on Newstuber, Rima Evenstar's main YouTube account, Evenstar, is considered one of the top Newstubers in the field. That's crazy to see this in writing, because I did not consider myself that. And her performance alone suggests Newstubing is a viable career path for VTuber journalists. Screenshot, Rima Evenstar. Well, thank you. I appreciate the compliment, but I don't like when people give me labels, and I don't like the label of Newstuber or VTuber journalist. But it's okay. If people call me that, it's fine. I think my content speaks for itself. I understand that I'm suggesting may be rejected as a silly fantasy. It may be too expensive. It may not be financially viable long term. There may not be enough investment to keep this kind of agency afloat. Or income from audience revenue may still insert bias into coverage over time. Yeah. That's kind of what we said. Also, there are issues beyond audience bias that Newstubers grapple with on the daily, issues that a journalistic agency would not fix. For example, access journalism and VTubing seems here to stay, as everyone wants to stay in the good graces of the biggest corporations and VTubers. Then there's the fact that VTubing is massively connected and incredibly tight-knit. That is true. Everyone has an opinion on everyone, love, hate, or something in between. I doubt that will go away. But journalism is something I strongly believe in, whether it's written by a woman at home in her pajamas or spoken by an anime girl who looks like a horse. Is that a reference to me? I do not look like a horse! It is my strongly held belief that Newstubers are a net positive in the space, that their new media approach is the future. I want them to receive the same level of support that journalists like myself have traditionally enjoyed across their careers. You know what would really give us support? Actually, like what I would like to have more in the field is to have more official source and written articles to go off from. Like literally, like if you want to help the industry, it's kind of like that proverb that I don't remember about rising tides and ships, okay? Where I think we just need more quality content from other sources, other publications talking about VTubers and, you know, VTuber situations, dramas, events, all of that. And I feel like that would help. I feel like that would help me tremendously. Yeah, more original research to cite upon. Even like when I wanted to do more videos in the ContraPoint style about like going more in depth about, for example, parasocial relationships and all of that, it was difficult to find even studies. Well, for parasocial relationship there is, but not so much specifically pointed about VTubers. There's just a lack of studies and research made onto the niche, and I think that will come as the industry grows, but right now it's not there yet. News VTubers deserve a team behind them to support them, helping them publish the best reporting possible. A Newstuber agency would free Newstubers from worrying too much about putting out a bad take, and instead allow them to be genuine and forthright in their approach. Oh, you know, after a while you kind of get you know, after putting out a few bad takes, you sort of become immune to it. Not gonna lie. It takes a few bad takes though to get there. I speak from experience. You're just like, well, it is what it is. I will never flame people that sleep in again. Or people with eyeglasses. Could we see something like this one day? I don't know, but it would be nice and it would give us silly old school digital media journalists a run for our money. That too. Doesn't Idol have one of their VTuber do like Idol news, by the way? There was something a little bit similar already. Good journalism was easier on 4 corporation than on all the news outlets. Yeah, Kai used to. Aww. Yeah, FaZe does that. Unsure if they will continue at the moment. Well, it wasn't the worst article. It was interesting to read, even though I don't think... I mean, she says you don't need to buy my idea. She says it might be a bad idea. I don't really agree that is the solution for it. Like I said, I think what would really help me the most is to have more access to some research, because I also like injecting other random like tangents into my video essays, especially maybe less my streams. But for example, if I can cite like a great research paper, that would be great. Also, there is like, you guys remember when the whole doctor disrespecting happened and nobody was speaking about it? Apparently, but then like legacy media wasn't really talking about it. The problem is that legacy media, they encountered too many roadblocks because they have the structures that they need to follow before they can publish. However, YouTubers could speak about it at the time because YouTubers are more free to just talk about things as if they are opinion pieces, because that's what they are. And so for situations like these, it's just better not to have a corporations above you, because in a way it makes it so you can't speak about these things. I think at the center of this, and I guess that's my opinion on just like the, you know, the paper media that is dying and all of that. And maybe that is a personal opinion because I like lengthy topics and I like deep topics in general, especially when I'm reading. But it needs to be entertaining. At the end of the day, if you're not entertaining first and foremost, you're just not going to grab people's attention. You're going to have to resort to slop. And well, then you get the slop content and you get the slop SEO clickbait article pieces, which is like a paragraph like this of new information, and then the rest of the article will just be like the history of the VTubing agency or whatever, just like rehashed information that everybody knows. Hey, you, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell button, and I'll see you in the next video.